You might be surprised to know that our musical journey did not start with the bright spotlight, but with a very real feeling: disappointment. My father used to be a member of a boy band, but he never really loved it. It was that experience that inspired him to put us on the musical path, hoping that his children would sing with their hearts, not out of pressure. I still remember the first time I stood on stage, the Royal Command performance. The lights, the music, the overwhelming emotions, everything is still vivid in my mind, as if it were just yesterday. But then time passed. It not only blurred the beauty, but also the halo gradually faded away. The faces that once made the world stop to admire, once dominated the television, once praised as the embodiment of the charm of R&B music, can now walk past you on the street without anyone noticing. In this video, join us as we look back at the journeys of 35 Black female R&B artists who have touched the hearts of millions with their powerful voices and captivating looks. They were once the queens of the stage, the dream of a generation. But where are they now? And what caused that halo to gradually fade? Mavis Staples was more than just an R&B and gospel icon. She was also a voice that never fell silent in the fight for civil rights in America. As the soul of the Staples singers, Mavis moved the nation with hits like "I'll Take You There" and "Respect Yourself," songs that carried the breath of freedom, hope, and the desire for equality. But behind the bright spotlight was a journey steeped in pain, loss, and extraordinary resilience. In the early 1960s, when she was just in her 20s, Mavis and her family experienced a haunting incident in Birmingham, where they were arrested for daring to fill up at a whites-only gas station. The experience became an unforgettable milestone, transforming her from a promising singer into a warrior who used music to protest and speak out against injustice. Not only did Mavis face dangers on her tours through the South, which was rife with discrimination, her personal life was also marked by an unfulfilled love story. She once had a deep relationship with Bob Dylan, a soulmate and idealist. They once considered getting married, but the opposition from her family made that love unfinished. Mavis never married, never had children. Only music was her confidant throughout her life. From 2000 to 2021, Mavis lost her father and 3 siblings, who stood on stage with her, singing about freedom, faith, and love. Each loss was a silent cut in her heart. However, today, in her twilight years, Mavis Staples still steps onto the stage with a powerful, soulful voice. In a confession, she choked up. "I still continue to sing, but now, I sing for the souls who have passed away." Mavis Staples is more than just an artist. She is a living testimony to the power of perseverance, to the timeless beauty of a soul that never succumbs to time or adversity. Dion Warwick, a sweet and emotional singer, was once one of the brightest icons of American R&B and pop music. With immortal hits like "I Say a Little Prayer" and "Walk On By," she touched the hearts of millions, sold more than 100 million records, and rose to become a legend, standing shoulder to shoulder with great names like Aretha Franklin or Whitney Houston. However, behind that halo is a real-life journey with many ups and downs. Her marriage to William Elliott, seemingly happy, was a series of days full of conflicts. They got married in 1966, broke up after only a year, then reunited and finally officially divorced in 1975. Dion not only had to face the pain of a breakup, but also had to raise 2 young children alone. Being a single mother and maintaining her music career, she overcame challenging days with rare resilience. Not stopping at private pain, Dion also got caught up in public shocks that affected her elegant and polite image. In 2002, an incident at the airport made the press call her name, not because of her music, but because of an unexpected trouble. However, Dion still maintained her composure and courage. She continued on stage like a true artist, not letting any storms take away her charisma. The loss became even deeper when her close brother passed away in an accident, right when Dion was on tour. That shock made her withdraw, becoming quieter with her loved ones. And then, in 2013, the name Dionne Warwick once again covered the newspapers when she filed for bankruptcy at the age of over 70. Once a shining star in the world music sky, she now had to bear the consequences of past financial mistakes. Since the 1990s, she has trusted the wrong financial advisors and ended up owing millions of dollars in taxes. In her twilight years, Dion has been forced to continue performing, no longer to gain fame, but to maintain her daily life. However, despite all this, Dion Warwick remains an irreplaceable icon. The woman who once captivated the world with her timeless voice and charisma has always shone in her own way, quietly, persistently, and with great spirit. Although life has taken her through many twists and turns, the light of her music and her inner strength have never dimmed. Candi Staten, the First Lady of Southern Soul, is the soul behind such timeless hits as Young Hearts Run Free and Stand By Your Man. With her powerful, soulful voice, she has made a strong mark in all three genres of music: gospel, soul, and disco. Candi's career has been honored with many Grammy nominations, making her an irreplaceable icon in the American music industry. However, behind the bright lights is a life full of struggles. In 1970, she entered into a marriage with singer Clarence Carter, carrying the hope of a happy family. But soon, that dream was shattered, giving way to days of tension and hurt. In 1973, Candi left everything, took her children, and left that suffocating life to start over. Thinking that leaving the old brokenness would open a new chapter of peace, the following marriages did not bring her peace. She lost her way amid the pressures of her career and personal life, gradually falling into the darkness of mental fatigue. Alcohol became a temporary medicine that she relied on to soothe her emotional wounds, but the price to pay was her health, her singing voice, and her once faded aura. There was a time when Candi went on stage in a state of exhaustion. Her voice that once made millions of hearts flutter now seemed to be drowned in darkness. But then, music and faith once again pulled her out of the abyss. In 1983, she began her journey of recovery, full of thorns but also full of determination. Returning to gospel music, the music that had nurtured her soul since childhood, Candi gradually found herself again. In her singing, she conveyed not only technique, but also the most real experiences: pain, loss, and hope. As a mother of 5 children, she had to overcome many difficulties to raise them. There were times when she was so poor that she didn't have enough money to buy food, so she accepted to perform on small stages, receiving help from relatives just to maintain her life. But no matter the circumstances, Candi never gave up. Once, her eldest child asked, "Why are you never at home with us?" That question made her choke up, but also became the motivation for her to change, to live not only for the stage, but also for her own family. Candi Staten is not only a legendary singer, but also the embodiment of strength and perseverance. No matter how many times life has knocked her down, she still stands up, still sings, still spreads the special energy that can only be born from faith, love, and indomitable courage. And with each song, she tells her own story, honest, painful, and extremely moving. Darlene Love, the golden voice of soul and R&B, once shook the whole of America in the 60s with hits like He's a Rebel and Christmas, Baby Please Come Home. Her voice was the soul of a brilliant period, carrying joy, desire, and the most sincere emotions. However, behind that sparkling halo was a journey of tears, betrayal, and injustice. At the peak of her career, Darlene fell under the cruel control of producer Phil Spector, who was once honored as a musical genius. Although she was the main vocalist who created the success of many famous songs, Darlene's name was erased, replaced by other groups that the public did not know about. She was not recognized, did not receive the appropriate remuneration, and was almost imprisoned in a world where talent was stifled by power. Behind the smile on stage was the silent pain that she had to swallow for many years. It wasn't until 1993 that Darlene finally found the courage to sue for her own honor. For years later, the court ruled in her favor, a measure of justice served. But the emotional wounds never heal, especially when they span her youth and her stolen dreams. When her career faltered in the late 1970s, Darlene had to leave the stage. With no more contracts and no more offers, She was forced to make a living as a cleaner in a small hotel in Los Angeles. One morning, while scrubbing the bathroom, she heard her own song playing on an old radio. The familiar sound made her stop, tears welling up in her eyes. In that poignant moment, Darlene was no longer a cleaner. She was a forgotten artist rediscovering her voice and herself. In 1986, she returned to Broadway, marking a spectacular rebirth after nearly a decade of silence. However, her personal life was not peaceful. Her marriage to Wesley Hodes faced many storms, from financial burdens to the stress of raising children. And when her beloved father passed away in the early 70s, who had been her strongest spiritual support, Darlene fell into a serious crisis, losing direction in both art and life. But despite everything that life took away, Darlene Love did not collapse. She chose to stand up, chose to continue singing, not to find her former glory, but to affirm that she was still there, still herself. The voice that had been hidden behind the flashy layers of others now resounded as a symbol of strong vitality, of unwavering faith, and of a soul that refused to be forgotten. Darlene is more than just a singer. She is a living testament to recovery from heartbreak, a voice of perseverance, and an unquenchable flame in the hearts of those who have been blinded by the chaotic world of fame and power. Martha Reeves, lead singer of Martha and the Vandellas, once made America throb with vibrant tunes like Dancing in the Street. A shining symbol of the Motown era, her powerful and emotional voice has been etched into the minds of many generations of music lovers. However, behind the bright lights of the stage, Martha's life was a sad song, with quiet notes filled with hurt, loss, and quiet resilience. In the 1960s, when her name was at its peak, Martha was caught in a never-ending cycle, a suffocatingly dense tour schedule. One year she had to perform more than 300 nights. Amidst the cheers and endless applause was a tired, lonely, and gradually exhausted woman. The invisible pressures from the entertainment industry, along with the severe racism when touring the American South, caused Martha to fall into a prolonged mental crisis. When the group disbanded in 1972, she felt like she was being pushed out of the world she once belonged to, lost, directionless, and without support. There was a time when Martha suffered from insomnia, living in a suffocating deadlock. But it was faith and psychotherapy that helped her hold on to a little light, gradually finding herself among the broken pieces. Her personal life was not easy either. Married at a very young age in 1961, Martha soon realized that marriage was not the sweet dream she had thought. Her first husband could not stand the halo of his wife's current fame, and jealousy turned their love into suffocation. After the divorce, Martha became a single mother, juggling work and motherhood alone, often away from her child in constant torment. The subsequent marriage could not be maintained, and her son had to be cared for by relatives many times. After leaving Motown, Martha's name gradually faded away. By 1983, she was facing the risk of losing her beloved home in Detroit because she could not afford the expenses. She was forced to seek help from her old friends, the artists who had stood by her side at the peak of glory. For many years after that, Martha performed at small fairs, on modest stages, just to maintain as simple and fulfilling life as possible. Although she was no longer at the top as before, Martha Reeves never gave up. Deep in her soul, she still carried the fear of instability, of being forgotten. However, that voice still resonated, true, intense, and full of courage. Martha was not only a memorable singer, but also a symbol of perseverance. She was a woman who went through the darkest days of her life without losing herself. A silent warrior, but always steadfast in the face of storms, with a heart that never stopped resonating with music. Glattis Knight, the legendary voice that touched millions of hearts with her soulful love songs, is not only a shining symbol of soul and R&B music, but also an embodiment of extraordinary strength, endurance, and determination. Behind the glittering stage lights, behind the prestigious awards and mesmerizing performances is a life full of challenges, with many silent wounds. In the early 1980s, when her career was at its peak, Glattis began participating in light bets at entertainment nights in Las Vegas. But that pastime quickly turned into an addiction, dragging her into a harsh spiral of loss and torment. There were nights when she lost tens of thousands of dollars in just a few hours. The climax was in 1983, when a fateful card game wiped out all her savings that she had accumulated over many years, a fall that broke her heart. The shame caused Glattis to withdraw from friends and relatives. She lived her days hiding in casinos, torn between temptation and regret. It was not until 1989, thanks to regaining her faith and participating in a serious drug rehabilitation program, that she gradually emerged from the darkness and regained her balance. Glattis's personal life was not peaceful either. Married for the first time at the age of 16, she soon had to face her drug-addicted husband and then raised her children alone in loneliness. Her second marriage continued to bring pain, with irreconcilable conflicts. Every time love failed, a part of her heart broke, and music became the only place to vent her sadness, to stand firm. The greatest tragedy of her life occurred in 1999 when her eldest son, Jimmy, passed away from heart disease after many years of fighting the disease. That pain left sleepless nights, tears that no one knew about. In 2023, she suffered another loss, the passing of her close brother, who was also her lifelong companion on the musical journey. In recent years, Glattis has also faced financial troubles related to her daughter's business, which led to lawsuits and family disagreements. Even though she is in her twilight years, she still has to learn to stand firm in loneliness, in wordless pain. However, overcoming it all, Glattis Knight still sings. That voice, once brilliant at the top, now carries the depth of a life of ups and downs. She is not an icon because she has never fallen, but because every time she falls, she gets up, stronger, more courageous, as if in her heart, the music has never stopped. Patti LaBelle, the immortal voice of R&B and soul, not only stunned the world with her powerful, explosive voice in Lady Marmalade, but was also praised as the singer of all singers. But behind the thunderous applause, behind the brilliant halo, is a journey filled with silent pain that only the heart can fully feel. Patti once believed that marriage would be a peaceful shelter between endless tours. Her marriage of more than 30 years with Armstead Edwards, her partner and manager, was once admired as an exemplary love story. But then, the cracks began to appear silently. Jealousy of his wife's halo, endless arguments, and a feeling of growing distance gradually turned the shared home into a cold void. In 2000, Patti made the painful decision, ending her marriage after 32 years. Since then, she has raised her son alone, shouldered the burden of the stage alone, still smiling as if nothing had happened. However, the greatest pain in Patti's life came from the losses in her family. Within more than a decade, 3 close sisters passed away from cancer. Vivian, Barbara, then Jacqueline. Each name was a dull pain, deeply engraved in the eldest sister's heart. Patti spent her last days with her youngest sister, holding her hand tightly, helplessly watching her wither away day by day without being able to do anything but cry silently in her heart. Each farewell was a wound that never healed. The obsession called genetics became a ghost that haunted Patti. Would she be the next? And then, in 1995, that fear became a reality. Patti was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. A year earlier, she had collapsed on stage due to hypoglycemia, the first warning of a difficult new chapter. From then on, Patti was forced to completely change her lifestyle. Strict diet, regular insulin injections, and saying goodbye to the favorite foods that had been a comfort in a tiring life. Every performance became a challenge, not just performing, but a battle with health, with the fear of losing her voice, running out of breath, or not having the chance to thank the audience. But despite the pain in her life, from love to illness, Patti LaBelle still did not give up. With her powerful voice, her iron will, and her never-fading love of life, she continued to shine. She is not only an artist on stage, but also a source of inspiration for life, proving that after storms, true artists still sing, not only with their voice, but with their hearts that have experienced many storms. Diana Ross, the eternal queen of R&B and soul, is a towering icon who has helped shape the face of modern American music. From her history-making days with the Supremes to her flamboyant solo career, Diana is more than just a voice. She is the embodiment of glamour. But behind the bright spotlight lies a life filled with silent pain, hard-to-heal wounds, and the resilient journey of a woman living in a glamorous but challenging world. In the 1960s, when the Supremes became a musical phenomenon, Diana Ross was at the center of the spotlight, not only because of her captivating voice, but also because of the controversy surrounding her favoritism from Motown mogul Berry Gordy. The once close friendship between Diana and Florence Ballard, the group's co-founder, gradually cracked. Florence felt left behind as the spotlight increasingly focused on Diana alone. In 1967, Florence left the group. Her life quietly slid into poverty, and she died in 1976 of liver disease. That sad news caused Diana Ross pain and regret for many years after. Diana's personal life was also full of ups and downs. Her first marriage to producer Robert Ellis Silberstein, which seemed to be a peaceful destination, quickly fell apart after only 6 years. Rumors that Rhonda, Diana's first daughter, was the result of an affair with Berry Gordy caused even more turmoil in the family. Her second marriage to Norwegian businessman Arne Næss Jr. also did not last long. After 15 years, when Arne had a child with someone else, the marriage ended. Once again, Diana quietly shouldered the role of a single mother, raising her children amidst the accumulated trauma. Not only love, Diana Ross's career also faced a shocking scandal. In 1999, she was arrested for driving under the influence, a stain that severely damaged her elegant, standard image. But instead of letting herself sink into scandal, Diana bravely faced it. She accepted treatment, overcoming that dark silence with remarkable calmness and determination. Overcoming everything, from broken relationships, losing friends, to falling in the middle of her peak, Diana Ross still steadfastly continued, like a torch that never went out. Over time, she not only proved herself to be a great artist, but also a strong woman, refusing to give up in the face of adversity. Her legend was not only written in music, but also in her resilience, self-respect, and heart that never gave up. Betty Levette, one of the most soulful and profound voices in R&B music, is a symbol of resilience and extraordinary determination. Born in Detroit, once known as the heart of American soul, Betty grew up in a deprived environment. Her childhood was not as complete as many others, when the stressful living environment forced her to learn to be strong and independent early. From a very young age, Betty had to face challenges that few could imagine. When her father, whom she always considered her support, suddenly passed away when she was only 16 years old, all the burdens fell on her shoulders. Left with no other choice, Betty was forced to grow up early, put aside her youthful dreams to take care of her family, and step into a difficult life. Married at 17 with the desire for stability, she quickly realized that life was not as easy as expected. The relationship soon ended after many conflicts, leaving her alone to raise her child, singing while trying to maintain faith in the future. After the success of the hit Let Me Down Easy in 1965, Betty was expected to rise to the ranks of top names. But throughout the 70s and 80s, she was gradually forgotten, having to perform on small stages to maintain her life. At times, she faced serious financial difficulties and thought she would have to give up music. But no matter how tired she was, she still did not allow herself to fall. And then, what seemed impossible happened. Starting from the 2000s, the public gradually found and loved that special voice. Betty Levette's return was not noisy, but full of power, the result of a long process of constant effort. She proved that true talent can be forgotten for a while, but will always find its way back when ignited by passion and courage. Today, Betty Levette is remembered not only as an artist with a unique voice, but also as a symbol of life strength. Her life is proof that no matter how many challenges come, if you keep your faith and perseverance, you can still move forward and shine in your own unique way. Chaka Khan, the eternal icon of funk and R&B, captivated the world with her explosive voice and unmistakable personality. With hits like Ain't Nobody and I'm Every Woman, she was the soul of a brilliant musical era. But behind the halo was a turbulent life, a journey that was both sparkling with lights and covered in darkness. In the 70s and 80s, when her career with the band Rufus and then as a solo artist was at its peak, Chaka gradually fell into a dangerous spiral. The pressure, loneliness, and the allure of the entertainment world dragged her into a spiral of uncontrollable temptations. Alcohol and stimulants became a part of life, not to celebrate, but to escape. Many mornings, she woke up with no memory of what had happened the night before, only fatigue and the worried eyes of those close to her. That time not only wore down her health, but also caused her voice, the most precious thing to her, to almost disappear. In the mid-80s, Chaka faced a life-or-death situation due to a drug overdose. That was a wake-up call, but what really made her come to her senses was the look in her daughter's eyes, the child who had witnessed her mother at her lowest point. Since 1989, she has embarked on a journey of drug rehabilitation, a difficult path, but also a courageous decision that helped her find herself again. Chaka's love life is also filled with sadness. 3 marriages, 3 hopes, and then, all ended unfinished. Her first love with Hassan Khan only lasted a year, and her marriage with Richard Holland, the father of her only son, was full of tension and conflict. The unfortunate event that happened at her home in 1979 marked the end of that marriage, leaving her with many wounds that are not easy to heal. As a single mother, Chaka had to maintain her career while taking care of her children. But the storm did not stop. In 2006, she lost her beloved nephew in a heartbreaking incident in Chicago. Her relationship with her son Damien also encountered many difficulties, especially after an incident in 2004 that made her feel remorseful about her role as a mother. It was these shocks that made Chaka choose to withdraw, take time for herself, heal, and listen to her heart. Despite many wounds, Chaka Khan still stands strong, not only as a music star, but also as a symbol of the will to live. She is proof that no matter how difficult the past is, a soul that can overcome adversity can always shine with sincerity and inner strength. Stephanie Mills, the powerful singer with the hit, I Feel Good All Over, was once a shining symbol of 80s R&B music. She touched the hearts of audiences with her genuine emotions and great technique. But behind the stage lights was a difficult journey, a life filled with sadness, sacrifice, and the courage of a woman who refused to surrender to fate. In 1980, Stephanie entered into a marriage with Jeffrey Daniel, a member of the band Shalimar, with all her faith in a lasting home. However, her fame, combined with differences in lifestyle and the pressure of a busy schedule, caused the gap between them to grow wider. Jealousy, stress, and endless arguments gradually made her tired. By 1983, they officially broke up after 3 stormy years. Thinking that happiness would return, Stephanie married Dino Meminger for the second time in 1989. But once again, the constraints of the relationship made her feel suffocated. She was no longer herself, gradually losing her freedom and light in her soul. The marriage ended after only 2 years, leaving deep emotional wounds and a lasting loneliness. As a single mother, Stephanie had to both maintain her passion for music and be the sole breadwinner in the family. Her son, Farid Mills, was born in 1980, the greatest source of motivation in her life. But the busy touring schedule often forced the mother and son to be apart. Once, when Farid was young, he sobbed and asked his mother, "Mommy, why don't you come home?" Just that one sentence was enough to break her heart. That was the moment that made her wake up and realize that success would be meaningless if it was exchanged for sacred moments with her child. In 2001, when Farid was diagnosed with Down syndrome, Stephanie once again faced a seemingly insurmountable challenge. But she did not give up. She accepted every difficulty with unconditional love, accompanying her child through every step of development, not leaving her alone for even a step. Her career also went through periods of stagnation. When the new wave of artists rose in the late 80s, her halo gradually faded. Failures in love and the burden of motherhood made her fall into a state of self-doubt. There were long nights in her small apartment in New York. She cried alone, wondering if she was still worthy of standing on stage. But with extraordinary determination, help from psychotherapy, and love from her family, Stephanie Mills stood up. She not only returned to the stage with a stronger heart, but also spread a positive message about motherhood, overcoming difficulties, and believing in oneself. Stephanie Mills is more than just a voice. She is a warrior, a mother, a woman who has overcome adversity to become a model of courage and resilience. Anita Baker, the legendary voice of R&B, has touched the hearts of millions with her gentle, soulful love songs like Sweet Love. But behind her enchanting voice is a childhood full of trauma and a quiet private life filled with sadness that is not easy to express. When she was only 2 years old, Anita had to face the first shock of her life, being abandoned by her biological mother without a word of goodbye. She grew up in the arms of her grandmother and a strict foster family, where discipline was always put first and love was a luxury. Anita's childhood was a series of days lacking in hugs and comfort, a cold memory where loneliness was imprinted on her young heart. At the age of 16, her adoptive mother passed away. With no relatives or support, Anita began her independent life as a waitress, and music was the only place she found comfort. When success came, with awards and recognition around the world, many people thought that Anita Baker had entered a perfect dream. But in reality, her private life was not as peaceful as the melodies she sang. In 1988, she married Walter Bridgeforth Jr., hoping to find a peaceful place behind the stage lights. However, that nearly two-decade marriage gradually became a tiring journey. Differences in opinions, long-standing misunderstandings, and the invisible pressure of fame caused everything to crack. Once, after an exhausting tour, Anita returned home only to fall into a fierce argument. That moment made her cry, not because of the words, but because of the feeling of being stuck. In 2007, they officially divorced. Anita became a single mother, raising 2 sons alone in silence, suppressing all her sadness behind her smile on stage. Her career was not without its harsh twists and turns. In the late 1980s, Anita was embroiled in a long legal battle with Elektra Records, a battle that left her emotionally drained. The fear of losing control of her own music, the sleepless nights, and the constant pressure to be perfect all took their toll. In 1994, she decided to take a break from her career to find balance, a difficult but necessary decision to protect herself and her family. Despite being abandoned and devastated by loss, Anita Baker refused to let life overwhelm her. It was her faith and spiritual therapy that helped her get up, little by little, to move on. In her scarred heart, there was still love for music, for her 2 sons, and for herself. Anita was more than just a golden voice. She was a testament to a gentle yet enduring strength, a woman who could rise from her wounds and sing with all that she had been through. Jody Watley, the sharp icon of R&B music, once made waves in the music scene with the hit song Looking for a New Love, a hit that not only affirmed her talent, but also marked her independent and individual style. But behind the image of a shining star is a tearful life story, years of struggling to find peace, both in her soul and in her private life. Born in Chicago to a pastor father, Jody grew up in an incomplete home. The constant conflicts between her parents about finances and life views led to divorce when she was only 10 years old. From then on, her mother took care of the family alone, and Jody, the eldest child, had to learn how to be an adult early while her childhood had not yet blossomed. Moving between Chicago and Los Angeles to find a stable future made Jody even more withdrawn, carrying mental scars that lasted until later years. When she married musician Andre Simon, Jody hoped to find a safe haven where she could build the family she had been missing. But from 1991, their marriage began to crumble. Work pressures, jealousy, and distance in thinking caused the two to grow apart. Although they had a daughter together, Lauren, born in 1987, they were still unable to maintain their family. In 1994, the divorce ended a period of turmoil, and Jody embarked on a journey of single motherhood, a journey that required her to be both steadfast and hide her inner wounds. After leaving Shalimar in 1983, Jody embarked on a solo career and quickly became famous. But when she stepped out of the shadow of the past, she not only faced strict expectations but also had to fight discrimination and prejudice in the music industry. The constant comparisons, the gossip about her direction and image made Jody feel isolated at times. By the late 90s, public attention had faded, and her music was no longer as well received as before. She fell into a mental crisis, spending many nights alone in her Los Angeles home, feeling like everything was slipping away. During those dark days, Jody turned to meditation and psychotherapy to heal herself. It was not an easy path, but thanks to it, she gradually regained balance, not only in her work but also in her personal life. No longer chasing the spotlight or the pressure to please everyone, Jody chose to shine at her own pace. Jody Watley is more than just a talented artist. She is the image of a woman who has been hurt but not broken, who has overcome silent challenges, maintained her identity, and continued to spread strong, profound energy through every note and steady step she takes. Regina Bell, the golden voice behind the immortal love song A Whole New World, once made millions of hearts flutter with her sweet and powerful voice. But behind the sparkling stage lights was a difficult journey, where she fought not only for her career, but also for her own life. In 2009, Regina's life took a cruel turn when she was diagnosed with a benign tumor on the meninges, located close to important nerves. The symptoms had started a year ago: severe headaches, dizziness, and constant fainting that disrupted all activities. And then, when faced with the choice of surgery, it was not only a life-saving surgery, but also a gamble that determined the ability to speak, walk, and sing, the most precious things an artist has. After the risky surgery, Regina embarked on a long recovery journey. She had to learn all over again: how to stand firm, how to pronounce clearly, and how familiar notes were now unfamiliar. There were days when she didn't recognize her own voice, the thing that had made her name and her life. But instead of falling apart, Regina chose to persevere, step by step, breath by breath, overcoming that challenge with all that was left in her heart. However, the physical was only part of the arduous journey. Since childhood, Regina had to face deep trauma. Her parents divorced when she was young. Her mother raised her alone in poverty and loneliness. That mother was her spiritual support, the hand that led her into the world of music. And when her mother passed away in 2005 due to heart disease, Regina seemed to have lost most of her strength. That emptiness smoldered for a long time, leading to silent, unexplained bouts of depression. Her marriage to former NBA star John Battle was once a peaceful one, but her illness has made everything fragile. Regina often gets angry and anxious because of the financial pressure and the responsibility of taking care of 5 children. There are long nights when she tosses and turns wondering, am I doing good enough? The feeling of not being a good mother always haunts her in silence. However, in the midst of all these storms, Regina Bell still stands firm, not by miracles, but by faith, determination, and love that has never been extinguished. Her voice, once almost taken away, still resonates, not only with sound, but with a heart that has been broken and then revived. Once again, Regina Bell proves that, when faith remains, all challenges will pass. Toni Braxton, the soul of the love song Unbreak My Heart, was once considered an irreplaceable symbol of global R&B music. But behind the bright stage lights and resounding hits was a stormy journey, where she not only faced serious financial losses, but also fought illness and deep wounds in her personal life. In 1998, when her career was at its peak, Toni suddenly filed for bankruptcy, revealing a debt of nearly $4 million, the result of an unfair contract with the record label and uncontrollable touring costs. Fans were stunned, and Toni, in tears, had to face the scrutiny of the public, labeled a bankrupt star, even though her singing was still covering the world. However, fate seemed not to let her go. In 2010, she once again filed for bankruptcy. This time, the burden was mounting medical bills, tax debts, and the consequences of long-term financial mistakes. The total debt was estimated to be between $10 million and $50 million, forcing Toni to sell assets, downsize her life, and face depression in silence. In addition to financial difficulties, her health was also seriously threatened. Toni was diagnosed with systemic lupus erythematosus, an autoimmune disease that attacks the body from within. The excruciating pain, exhaustion, and complications caused her to be hospitalized several times. In 2008, during a performance in Las Vegas, she collapsed on stage, a moment that not only shocked the audience but also made her afraid. Would her voice survive? From then on, drugs, steroids, and treatments became mandatory companions. In late 2012, a serious relapse left her almost completely collapsed in Los Angeles. Exhausted and mentally suppressed, Toni had to learn to persevere from her own limits. Family life was not without its traumas. Her marriage to Carrie Lewis, a member of the group Mint Condition, started with deep love but quickly fell apart due to financial pressure and illness. They separated in 2009 and completely separated in 2013. Toni became a single mother, raising two sons, Denim and Diesel, a challenging journey while she both healed her body and revived her career. Even her relationship with her sisters, who had worked together on the reality show Braxton Family Values, sometimes fell apart, leaving gaps and wounds that were not easy to heal. But it was in these challenges that Toni Braxton revealed an extraordinary strength. She did not let her failures define her life. Even though she had experienced loss, had been misjudged, and had felt lost, she still sang, as an affirmation that, no matter how many times a heart is broken, it can still heal and can still love once more. Mary J. Blige, the woman honored by the world as the queen of hip-hop soul, not only makes millions of hearts flutter with her powerful and emotional voice, but also with her painful and courageous transformation journey. Her life story is not just about music, but also the epic of a woman who was pushed to the brink of pain, but still resiliently moved on. Mary's childhood was a series of dark days. When she was only 4 years old, her father turned his back on the family, leaving her mother, a woman who worked as a manual laborer, to struggle to raise her children alone in Yonkers, New York. The place where Mary grew up was not a place to nurture dreams, but a poor residential area filled with violence, crime, and darkness. At the age of 7, she experienced a heartbreaking event, a deep trauma that Mary had to bury in silence for many years. When her singing took her out of the rough neighborhood, Mary quickly became a shining star in the music industry with a series of hits. But fame could not heal the wounds that had not healed. Throughout the 90s, Mary sank into alcohol, drugs, and toxic relationships. She once woke up in a hotel room, completely unable to remember what happened the night before. Her friends thought she was dead. It was a moment of rock bottom, but also a turning point for her to look back at herself. In 2004, Mary began her journey of rebirth. Relying on her faith and the support of those who truly loved her, she was determined to let go of the past. Every day was a battle, not only with temptation, but with the memories that had imprisoned her. Music, once again, became her savior, the light that guided her out of the darkness. It was thought that marriage would be a peaceful destination, but the relationship with Kendu Isaacs, her husband and manager, was a series of days of enduring control and mental pressure. When the divorce broke out in 2018, Mary faced stressful legal disputes and heavy post-spousal support. But instead of falling apart, she chose to let go and stand up, as she had done throughout her life. Mary J. Blige is more than just a singer. She is a symbol of survival. From the abandoned girl in Yonkers to the strong woman conquering the world stage, her journey is proof that, no matter how many times life knocks you down, as long as you don't give up on yourself, you can still step out of the rubble and shine in the most beautiful way. Erykah Badu, the vocalist behind the hit On and On, is more than just an R&B artist. She is an independent icon who has redefined the role of female artists in modern music with her unconventional style, sharp artistic thinking, and rare courage. But behind the image of a strong and liberal woman is a challenging journey in love, family, and her own inner self. The love story between Erykah and rapper Andre 3000 was once a beloved icon in the 90s. They welcomed their first son, Seven, in 1997, opening a new sacred chapter in Erykah's life. However, fame, busy schedules, and irreconcilable differences caused the relationship to end in 1999. Despite the breakup, the two maintained a friendship to take care of their child together, but the breakup left her with nameless wounds. Subsequent relationships, including with Jay Electronica and others, did not bring the long-term stability she sought. Being a single mother in the cutthroat world of entertainment has never been easy. Erykah has often found herself exhausted trying to balance her roles as an independent artist and a devoted mother. One time, when her son asked, "Mommy, why are you always away?" That simple question made her heart ache. It was this torment that motivated her to adjust everything, to reconnect with her family while still maintaining her passion for art. Erykah's career has not been without controversy. In a video art piece filmed at the site of the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, she caused a stir in public opinion. Despite the wave of criticism and punishment, Erykah did not back down. She remains creative, even when she is in a state of deep depression and self-doubt. Meditation, art, and spiritual connection have become her refuges, helping her through her darkest days. Erykah Badu is more than just a star. She is a living testament to independence, creativity, and the courage to be true to herself. Through all that she has been through, she continues to inspire not only with her music, but also with her honesty, bravery, and unconditional love for her loved ones. Jill Scott, the soulful voice of A Long Walk, is not only a talented artist, but also a woman who has experienced the fierce challenges of life. Every note she plays contains old wounds, longings for love, and an incredible will to overcome adversity. Growing up in North Philadelphia, Jill faced a deprived childhood early on. Without a father, living in an unstable environment, and memories of violence crept into her young mind. In that empty world, music was the only place where Jill found comfort, but at the same time it was an arduous journey that tested her will. In 2001, she married Lysel Williams, who was expected to bring her a peaceful home. However, as her singing career began to flourish, her busy schedule and invisible pressures gradually pulled the two apart. The 2007 divorce left a deep scar on Jill's heart, making her question the value of love and commitment. A second relationship with Mike Dobson did not bring complete happiness either. Just over a year after their wedding, they officially split, leaving behind not only disappointment, but also public arguments and lasting hurt. With two broken marriages, Jill had to face the reality of being a single mother, shouldering both her career and raising her son. There were nights when she quietly shed tears when she heard her son whisper, "Mommy, I miss you." Those innocent words were like a needle piercing straight into the mother's heart, both loving and tormenting. The haunting thought of not being able to be with her child in important moments once made Jill falter and doubt herself. An artistic career, though glittering with awards and praise, has not been without its low points. The pressure on her shoulders, combined with the quiet loneliness, caused Jill to fall into a state of depression. But instead of giving in, she proactively sought therapy, a brave step to keep her soul strong and continue her journey. Jill Scott is more than just a singer. She is an icon for women who have been broken, but are still brave enough to love again. With her honest voice and resilient heart, she continues to inspire millions that in the darkest days, music and love can be the light that guides them back. Faith Evans, the soulful voice of I'll Be Missing You, is not only an R&B icon, but also a living testament to a woman who has overcome pain, loss, and risen from seemingly insurmountable storms. Her marriage to hip-hop legend the Notorious Blige started like a whirlwind, Just 8 days after their first meeting in 1994, they officially became husband and wife. But what seemed like a fairy tale quickly became a harsh reality. Personality differences, the pressure of fame, and uncontrollable jealousy turned that love into a series of conflicts. In 1995, after a tense argument, Faith left the family with fear and a broken heart. In 1996, she gave birth to her first son, the only crystallization of two talented but incompatible people. Before she could enjoy the happiness of motherhood, Faith had to face the biggest shock of her life, the tragic death of Biggie in 1997. She fell into a state of depression, having to learn to cope with the pain of loss while still struggling to raise her child amidst heavy pressure from the public and the media. Faith's childhood was not peaceful either. Losing her father at a young age, she was raised by her mother, a strong-willed woman, in difficult circumstances. Her grandmother, who was always there to protect and inspire her, passed away when Faith was still searching for a place in life, leaving an unfillable void in her heart. In 2004, Faith continued to stumble when she was involved in a legal incident that led to her arrest. In the face of public opinion and pressure from the media, she did not hide her sadness or avoid responsibility. Instead, she faced it, moved on, and chose to start over. It was not only a turning point in her career, but also a milestone that affirmed the inner strength of a mother, a woman who refused to surrender to adversity. Faith Evans is remembered not only for her deep voice, but also for her courageous journey to overcome deep wounds. She redefined the image of an artist, not only shining on stage, but also shining with courage, love, and a spirit that never gives up. Selena Johnson, the powerful singer of the hit Guess What, is a living testament to a woman who has turned her deep wounds into motivation, rising strongly amidst the many challenges of life and art. Born into a family with a musical tradition, it seemed like it would be fertile ground for her to develop. But the reality was far from what people imagined. Her father, the legend of blues and soul, Syl Johnson, was often away from home, leaving the burden of raising children on the shoulders of her resilient mother. Selena's childhood was filled with days filled with arguments, quiet nights hiding in her room to avoid the broken emotions of adults. When her parents divorced, a deep mark was left on her soul, making her always carry the fear of love, fear of hurt, fear of loss. As an adult, Selena sought stability in love through marriage to basketball player Kevin Garris. They had a son together, but life was not a fairy tale. Between her passion for singing, her busy work schedule, and her motherhood, she gradually felt cracks in the relationship. Differences in thinking, financial pressure, and lack of connection made the marriage suffocating. In 2013, they officially went their separate ways, closing an incomplete chapter of their lives. During that time, Selena also had to face another silent enemy: weight pressure and depression. Prolonged stress caused her to gain weight uncontrollably, at one point exceeding 200 pounds. She decided to undergo weight loss surgery, not for her appearance, but to save her exhausted health and spirit. She once shared about sleepless nights, crying and worrying about her public image, amidst countless judgmental looks. But what made Selena Johnson different was her unyielding strength. Even though she fell, she still got back up, stronger, more honest. She continued to compose, perform, and take care of her family, not to please anyone, but to affirm the voice of a woman who dared to face her pain, overcome her limits, and live true to herself. Her journey is not only a story of music, but also an epic of courage, of recovery, and of a heart that never stopped believing in its own worth. Brandy, the singer who moved the world with "The Boy Is Mine," is an irreplaceable R&B icon. But behind the spotlight and the smash hits is a life that has repeatedly fallen into the abyss of pain and loss. December 30th, 2006 marked a haunting turning point in her life. A serious accident on the 405 freeway in Los Angeles took the life of a woman. Although Brandy was not prosecuted, the guilt and remorse weighed heavily on her spirit for many years after. The event caused her to withdraw, avoid the media, and fall into a deep depression. Invisible fears, especially when behind the wheel, became an indelible part of her mind. Not only was her career interrupted, Brandy's personal life was also full of turmoil. Her relationship with producer Robert "Big Bird" Smith fell apart while she was pregnant with her first child, a daughter named Sarai. Becoming a single mother in the midst of a mental crisis, she tried to protect her child while silently battling an inner conflict that few people understood. Then, her engagement to basketball player Quentin Richardson fell apart, leaving another wound that had not yet healed. In the following years, Brandy tried to return to music with the album Human, but the lackluster response from the public made her feel even more isolated. Even the much-anticipated reality TV show could not help her escape public pressure and persistent controversies. However, Brandy did not give up. Her unconditional love for her daughter was the guiding light in her darkest years. Music became her healing therapy, where she found her voice after deep trauma. Brandy is not just a legendary singer. She is a clear example of the strength to overcome tragedy, of the journey to find oneself amidst the storms of life. A heart that was once broken, now still sings, bravely, sincerely, and full of life. Mayia, the seductive singer who took the world by storm with the hit Lady Marmalade, not only captivated audiences with her sexy style and powerful voice, but also with a real-life journey filled with pain, determination, and rebirth. Born into a troubled family, Mayia witnessed intense arguments between her parents due to financial pressure since childhood. Their divorce left a huge void in her, a sensitive child who had to grow up without stability, learning to withdraw and turning to music as the only place to feel safe. The neighborhood she lived in was full of turmoil, and the only thing that kept her soul was the melody and the quiet dance steps in her small room. As she entered adulthood, Mayia could not avoid being hurt in love. Personal relationships were publicly scrutinized, leading to silent hurt that only those involved could understand. Many times, she faced judgmental looks just because of her choice to stay single, especially when she passed the age of 30. The prejudices poured in, causing her to quietly wonder many nights, am I going in the wrong direction? The musical path was also full of bumps. The album project Liberation was constantly delayed, financial difficulties piled up, and the feeling of being forgotten in a rapidly rotating industry made her think about stopping. From the big stage, Mayia had to move to perform at smaller venues, with limited resources, but her perseverance never wavered. However, what made Mayia strong was not her popularity, but the way she redefined herself. No longer dependent on a major record label, Mayia became an independent artist, composing, producing, and managing every aspect of her career. She gradually rebuilt her image, not with tricks, but with pure passion and an unyielding heart. Mayia's story is more than just a musical journey. It's the story of a woman who stood up in the midst of a storm, who believed in her worth when everyone around her doubted her. And in the end, it was that determination that made her a symbol of self-reliance, perseverance, and never losing faith in herself. Monica, the singer who made the world tremble with Angel of Mine, is not only an icon of modern R&B, but also an embodiment of inner strength and extraordinary perseverance. Behind the applause and the stage lights, there is a soul that has carried deep wounds that are not easy to heal. In 2000, her life suddenly changed direction when her boyfriend, Jarvis Williams, suddenly passed away right before her eyes, in a haunting moment near the cemetery. That loss not only took away the person she loved, but also caused Monica to fall into a period of severe depression at a very young age and a heart too fragile to endure such extreme pain. From a young age, Monica had to learn to live amidst harshness. She grew up in an incomplete family, in a neighborhood often shaken by turmoil and insecurity. But it was music that became her refuge, the light that guided her through her stormy childhood. Entering married life, Monica once hoped to find peace with NBA player Shannon Brown, a love that was admired by the public as a real-life fairy tale. But then, invisible pressures, growing distance, and endless rumors silently eroded the relationship. They officially broke up in 2019, closing the chapter of love in silence and regret. Now, Monica is a single mother of 3 children, a role that requires a lot of determination, but is also what makes her stronger than ever. She still moves forward with all her courage, love, and heart that has never succumbed to any adversity. Monica's story is not simply the journey of an artist. It is the journey of a woman who has fallen, been in pain to the core, but still chooses to stand up, continue to live, love, and inspire with the scars that have turned into strength. Among the stories just shared, who do you feel most sympathetic or impressed with? Is there any journey that makes you speechless, surprised, or strongly inspired you? I look forward to reading your honest thoughts in the comments section below. And if you love emotional behind-the-scenes stories, real-life slices behind the halo, please support by clicking like, subscribing to the channel, and turning on the notification bell so you don't miss any memorable journeys in the next videos.